What's up, you guys? We've got a special podcast here today. I've got Michelle Christopher has traveled across the country,
I did.
the great state of Texas, to join us.
I did.
And we're like, while you're here, let's do some podcasts and talk about it, because she has a new business venture that she's getting started and it's starting to catch steam. And we might as well give her a couple of pushes of that snowball that's about to blow.
I appreciate that.
Right?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So we figured we would just kind of go through the quick beginnings without getting into detail of like where you came from, how you climbed out of it, and where we're at today. But before we get to that, please like, subscribe, comment below. The more you do that, the more fun this is. Thanks.
All right, let's do it. So I started off here. Actually, I came from Texas. We moved there 2 years ago, but I grew up just down Highway 5, just right down the road here in Eden Prairie. I grew up in Section 8 housing on welfare. I moved out in my early 20s. I was a single mom. I too went from what I had learned on welfare and living in Section 8. And then I was just following suit and then realized this is not the life I wanted for my kids. So
When did you realize that? Because some people never realize that.
I think that I always kind of knew, but I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Because I think that people know, they just don't know how, because nothing was ever, I just repeated what I saw. You know,
Yep.
Nobody showed me how to buy a house. Nobody showed me this is how to manage finances.
Yep.
This is how you save. This is how you earn, right? So I was just repeating what I had been taught, what, my peers around me, what my parents showed me.
Yeah.
So there was something. And
So I've been thinking about this on the way in, and it's somewhere like right around like the lines of like 97% of the population kind of do the same thing and kind of live the same exact life
Yep.
of mediocrity. Somewhere between like super poor and like barely making ends meet, right? Probably 90 to 97% of them. But then there's this 3% that kind of scales out of that. And it's so weird because it's the same circumstances. One party will say, how can I? And the rest of them, how can I not? Or how can I get out of this? And the rest of them will be, how can I continue to be like the rest of the 97%? Because that's what's hot and trendy. And it's like so interesting to me that we see everybody try to replicate the people around them that look flashy that are still stuck in the 97%.
yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily a choice that they know they're making.
Yeah.
I don't think they're intentionally saying,
No.
how do I live this way? I
Yep.
think they're like, this is all I know.
Yep.
If
And
like,
it's hot and it looks good.
yeah, if like you never had chocolate before,
Yep.
do you enjoy chocolate? Maybe I should ask you
I
that
do.
first. Okay.
I do.
You wouldn't even know that that's what you were missing. I think some people are in that. And I just felt like there was something else. I mean, I would be on the bus and I would take the bus through all these neighborhoods of all these homes. And I would think to myself as a child, like, how do you own a home? Like, how do you live
Yeah.
there? Because I don't live there. Like, how do you do that? But, nobody really around me knew.
Yep.
Nobody told me, so I had to
Right.
figure it out.
That's a good one, right? Figured it out. Okay, so it happened, how long between like when you realized that like you're going to be the one who does that? How long did that execution take for you to start kind of catching flight?
I had a major trauma in my life. My dad passed away when I was 20, and I had this child.
Wow.
And so I, at that point, decided like I didn't want to live this life anymore. I didn't want to stay in the same, like on the same wheel, like a hamster. And so I just went back to school, and I literally asked them which of these jobs will pay me the most money. Like I just wanted to go and get a certification. And they said the technology one. And just to give everybody an idea, I'm 46. I just turned 46 a couple weeks ago. We were just talking about this because I have glasses for the first time in my life.
That's really good, by the way, make it to 46.
So like for my 46th birthday, I got these glasses. But when I was having this conversation with these people, these school counselors, this was before computers were in people's homes, just to give you an idea of, this was multiple decades ago.
Those are big decades, like the change.
Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that's kind of where it started, I mean, and just to like quick summary, and we can talk about the path, but just so people know, like I went from welfare in my early 20s to a technology executive. I was a COO at a large financial institution. And then I just retired from that, from my corporate job last year to be a life coach. So in 2.5 decades, I went from welfare to multiple six figures.
It's incredible.
Walked away from it to teach other people how to do this.
You know what the coolest thing that I just, not the coolest, one of the coolest things that you just said is when you sat down with the guidance counselor or whatever it was, you asked a wonderful question. And this is what I'm hoping that more kids getting to college are asking, because everybody's so obsessed with like going to school for their passion or for the feel goods or for the X and the Y. And oftentimes those are just straight paths to financial jail, because you stack on gazillion dollars in student loans, or even if you don't, you find yourself with this job that's based around your quote unquote passion, but you're not even considering what the income is until way into your college career and you're already too deep.
Yeah.
So like front loading these things and balancing like something that you want to do that's exciting with the financial aspect of it, like it's absolutely crucial. We should be front loading if we're going to be going to school, if we're going to be learning something, that the financial like cost benefit analysis actually makes sense. And then you can move into that. And I'm a firm believer that you can learn to love everything, and anything around you can become a passion if you have the right mindset.
Well, some are easier than others.
Yes, totally.
There's some things that are easier to love
Yes.
than others. And I think that, you can do things to afford milk and bread. Like that's what I would say is like, I went and got myself a job in a thing called technology, and I didn't even know what that meant. And like I said, computers weren't even in homes,
Yep.
and I bought, I just did that for milk and bread, and then kind of figured out my passion and did that as a side hustle, because I also think that people should not have one income stream.
Yep.
I think that people should have multiple income streams. Like even this could become an income stream. Like there's so many things at our fingertips these days that like I did not have, when I was starting off in my early 20s. So now my children who are in their 20s, like they have so many ways that they can make money.
Yep. It's basically unlimited right now.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what did you do with, I made a post. Did I make a post? Might have made a post about this morning, but I'm thinking about, I heard from David Green, who runs the Bigger Pockets podcast, and he was talking about hearing about that money was kind of an energy, right? So an energy source. You get the money, and the money is energy, and you can store it places where the energy stays and it builds energy, and you end up with more energy. But if you spend it, like you kind of kill that energy and you give it to somebody else.
Oh.
Right. So as it's coming in, like how do you store your energy, which is your dollar bills, and allow it to grow, which turns into different income streams. So along the way, as you're kind of accelerating through that, how did you find places to store your money as energy so it didn't just fall through your fingers like that? Have you ever seen that? Like the picture of the raccoon trying to eat cotton candy, and he puts it in the water and it just disappears in front of him?
No.
How? Okay. Anyways, he's so excited about his cotton candy, and he puts it in the water and it just disappears.
Oh.
And so when I say don't treat your money like the raccoon treated the cotton candy, like you can make millions of dollars per year and it can be gone.
Yes.
So
and I think a lot of people do live that, right?
Yeah.
You live within your means, like,
Correct.
And as your means grow, so does your
that means
lifestyle.
that you can go on more vacations and more X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So what did you do along the way where you're living a life that's fun and engaging, and you're going on trips, but you're also stowing away that money where it kind of stores itself?
I pay myself first.
Okay.
So I put down what goals I want to accomplish, and then I pay myself first. Okay. And then I look at everything else, right? Like I know how much my bills are. I know, all that, but I come first. So like Michelle Inc. is my company, and whatever income streams I have, whether it be like a corporate job or multiple income streams, I have rental properties, that all comes into Michelle Inc. and then I pay me first.
Yeah.
So those are the things like that. Those are going to pay for future, whether it's income streams or whatever.
Yep.
But that's what.
So explain Michelle
started.
Inc. What are those some buckets that Michelle Inc. would spend money on?
Right now I'm pooling all of my rental properties together because I want to buy multi-family.
Yep.
So, coming from like a girl who grew up in Section 8 housing, never owned a home, I'm hoping to own a lot.
So I think that's
homes.
where the blood's going to be in the water, by the way. And we won't get too far into this, but I think multifamily is going to come down, and I think we're going to be able to consolidate a lot of like splintered like single family homes and it's multifamily at deals. We'll see if that happens. We've been talking about crashes everywhere and they never show up. But maybe.
I've been watching it for a couple of years now as I'm doing my research, but that would be my goal.
Pricing got insane recently, but let's not go down that path. Okay. So all that experience, so you're kind of taking it, and I heard about buying some investments along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
When I started off, like I bought my first house in my early 20s, and I kept hearing this, you have to have 20% down, you have to have 20% down. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to own a home. And somebody mentioned to me, you actually don't, you only have to put down. I think like one of my friends was like a loan officer. And he was like, actually, you just have to do 3.5%. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so he told me, I think my first house was like $175,000 or something like that. So instead of like trying to figure out how do I come up with like, 34,000 or whatever, $1,000. Like for me, I was making like 35,000 a year. I was like, how am I supposed to save that? But I could come up with like maybe 8,
right.
I could save my money for, for whatever 3.5% of that was. But it became possible. And the moment it was possible, then it was like,
then you just go and
then it was doable.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, then it was like, okay, then it was just little steps. It was little steps. And like I said, that's where I learned to pay me first.
Yeah.
But before we move on, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe below.
Thank you. That's really good. And so it's great. So like with my rent, so you say like $7,000-8,000 for a down payment. Those, by the way, still exist. A couple $100K houses. They're nice little townhomes. They're sprinkled throughout. You have to come up with at least half of that anyways, just to sign a new lease nowadays, right?
Oh yeah.
Like $1,500 to $2,000 a month for like a house is pretty reasonable. And then you're paying double that on a security deposit. So you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 just to sign on a lease. So you're already halfway there. And so homeownership's probably not that far away.
And I do think that people don't understand the numbers. Yeah. I think that they think that they have to have all of their stuff all their stuff squared away to even have a conversation. And it's like, find a loan officer that you trust.
Yep.
And start having the conversations now, because you would be surprised what you are able to do. And I think that you'd be surprised. Like, I know a lot of people that are interested in a second home, in getting into having the passive income of a rental, seeing, success, hearing about it. Because now a lot of people are talking about flips and all that stuff. We got all these, cool shows on it. But people are talking about that. And I was like, gosh, if I would have known with my first house, I would have kept my first house.
Yes.
And then I would have purchased my next home. And I still would have stayed within FHA doing 3%. After I lived in my initial home, I think it's 3 years?
2 years.
Okay. And then I would have rented out my first home.
Yep.
Because, Mike, I have purchased 10 homes in my life.
Should have all of them.
And I only have half. Dang it.
Same though, right?
It's like, gosh, I just wish I would have known, like sometimes I go back and I look at that house and it was like on a busy street and it was like probably not in a town that I would invest in today, but it's today still like double what I paid for it. Like I still would have had a great return on investment if I kept that.
Well, you can even hold it for free at some point. So like when interest rates went down the last couple of years, you could cash out, refinance that, and you'd be into that property for, it probably would have paid you, $10,000 or $20,000 to $30,000 just to hold it at that point.
Yeah.
Right? So you can cash out your whole principal and just hold it. So the cool thing is that a couple of my past clients have been listening to me recently, and I've got 2 going right now where they're holding on to their house that they bought with me 3-4 years ago, and we're buying a new one. It's the first time I've seen that happen.
Good. Do
amazing.
it.
Yep.
Wish I would have.
One of them did a cash out refinance, grabbed some money, and they're doing a low down payment for the next one. And the other one are just like, hey, we're just moving.
Well, and that's what I think that it's supposed to do. Like that's what your house should do for you. Like when you live in it, it is a liability. It doesn't do anything for you. But when you start to take money out of it to make more money on it, then it's an asset.
Now it's an asset.
It does become your money stream. And the fastest way to build wealth coming from a poor girl, right, to now a rich woman is through real estate.
Yep. The real estate and assets that move with inflation, right?
Yes.
Especially right now, like inflation it's not going anywhere. They may fake it for a little bit right now, but like the money's still in the money system, right? So they can try to tamp down inflation all they want, but that's just all like nonsense because they're not pulling money out of the economy. It's still there.
And that's interesting too, because people talk about that, like, because you can see how much things cost when you go to the grocery store and all that. But I also see how much I'm getting on the side.
Yeah.
Like, that's not changing. Like I'm still getting that green.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And you can go up every year.
Yeah.
Every re-sign. Although that's pretty hard when you got good tenants.
I don't mess with them. Take care of my people.
I don't mess with them.
There's people like I have a guy who's been in one of my properties for over 20 years. And he's amazing.
It's expensive to turn over a unit, period. So like let's say you get an extra $100 a month for your rent, so you make $1,200 extra a year. If you lose a tenant over that, like you're spending $4,000 to $5,000 just turning it. And so now you just lost 4 years of that $1,200.
Really? That's how you do your math? See, I don't do my math that way.
So that's why I don't increase rents a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't think that it's that expensive. And the reason that I say that is because I think that sounds scary. And I can tell you that my bank account that stays green and my bank account that has allowed me to leave my multi-six-figure job. Now, I'm not making the same that I was, right? But I'm making enough to be able to afford the lifestyle. My lifestyle does not change. And I can start this new business and start to grow that. Like,
let me expand on this. If you get a bad tenant, it costs you $4,000 to $5,000.
Oh, yes.
So when you have a good tenant who's not wrecking your house, it's better to just.
And how many bad tenants do you have? Because I do think that a lot of people talk about this. And if I look at how many properties I have and how many years I have been, I'm a real estate professional now. I'm not an agent.
There you go.
I'm just a professional. So as an investor, like the percentages of good versus bad, I've had way more.
I haven't had a bad one yet.
Okay.
I've had bad ones apply often.
Yeah.
And we've gotten deep and like I've always turned away because I pay attention to a lot of different people who have a lot of different things to say. And that's where your coaching comes into play, right? Your coaches have learned those lessons for you, and your mentors and the podcasts you listen, they should have learned those lessons for you. So I haven't stumbled yet. I've gotten close.
Hey, that's great.
I almost signed a gal just recently. And I ended up having to remodel the whole thing just to kind of avoid it, but I didn't do it. And it was damn close. I know it would have been really bad.
You know, another thing too for first time, first time landlords, people that are getting into this, if they are afraid of that, because it does get discussed a lot in the industry, but the percentage of it is lower than having great tenants, is they can hire a management company. So that, like, I have a management company that manages all of my properties. I pay them $79 a month. I give them like a certain amount. So if like something breaks in a house that I own and it's above $300 or whatever, threshold, you can put whatever threshold you want. They will call you before they send out anybody and then get your approval for that so that you don't get
beautiful.
Hit.
You can set that threshold where you want.
Yeah, so that you will be notified. Otherwise, if it's like, if you set it at like $200 or whatever, then, if something under $200 happens, then you just know that your, the rent that you get will be deducted that amount. But I just think that it's such a peace of mind, right? Because a lot of people are like, what if there's a plumbing issue? What if there's these management companies have, they have contractors, that they can just pull from. So you don't have to know a plumber. You don't have to call your buddy Joe, who built an addition or finished his basement. Yeah. Like, you don't want that coming in your house. You want a licensed professional. It just takes out.
That shows up.
And if you're not a want to go out and, there's people like you that are like, well, I'll just, I got my people and I'll just figure it out. Some people don't want to just figure it out.
Yep.
Like, pay the fee. I'm a don't figure it out. Pay somebody who knows how to do it.
So when you pay those people, you're paying them for their sphere. And that's why I tell people, like, when they buy and sell houses with me, it's like, yeah, you get me, like, it's great. But like what I have like behind me with like the referrals and like all the contractors and all of the people, and then Ryan, she knocks it out of the park. Like, you get all of that with it. And all those relationships are like built in blood and wastes of money, right?
Yeah.
Finding really good contractors. So like when you tune into a really good property manager, they've done all that refinement for you because they're the ones who paid the pipers having the wrong people, and now they have the right people, and you get to benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 2 lessons: use the spheres of the people that you trust, and 2, be good to your contractors because you may need them someday.
Yes, for the good ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't negotiate, like with a good contractor, you don't negotiate with them.
No, pay them what they're worth.
You find somebody who knows how to bill you what they're worth.
Yes.
And you give it to them, and you give it to them regardless of what they want. I have a handyman who tries to like take money off. He's like, oh, I screwed up when I did this. I'm like, no, dude, you're there. Mistakes are part of a handyman. Like, I'm paying you like for your time, even if you screwed up, like, big deal.
Well, and these people, like, you're paying for like their kids' dance lessons or swimming lessons or food, this is birthday presents. Yeah.
Okay. So a little off track. Tell me about your new business.
So I am a life coach, and I work with people and help them get out of their own way, stop living small. Like you were talking about earlier, there's so many people that have this like drive. There's something in them, like they know they want something different. They just don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
So I just clean all that clutter out and just put together a simple plan.
And this falls along the line of like using the skills and like the experiences and of the people who have been there and done that, because the answer is already in your brain. It's already in your thoughts, but like, my goodness, when you air it out with somebody who's been there, like, it's just going to be a snap. She might even just look at you and you'd be like, oh,
I got it. Well, sometimes you just have to hear yourself.
Yes.
Like if you hear yourself and you're like, I just answered my own, but you've been ruminating on that particular issue for so long. And I love that you just said the answer is in you, because it is. It oftentimes is in you. You just like, where do I start? And you get into confusion and you can start just creating all of this drama for yourself instead of just starting with the small step. Just do the first next thing, and it'll be amazing how the steps just show up. Like you don't have to look at the whole staircase. Just take that first step. And that sometimes is the hardest, is just like, well, which one? Any, mini, miny, mow it if you need to. Like, who cares? Anyone. There's no wrong answer. Just take one. That's
it's not always at the surface level. Now, there can be some super deep stuff. That reminds me, I want to talk to you about accelerated depreciation. Now that you're a real estate professional.
Oh, okay.
I got to share this with you. But sometimes it's like way deeper. It's like, whoa, you're doing this? Like, what about this huge chunk that didn't even like cross your mind that could like make your life just explode with like benefit? Which is what accelerated depreciation is when you're a real estate professional. So it may not be like that top of like level of stuff. Like you're going to find like, you're going to tune into like how to do that at a like super conscious, deep level. One of the things that you told me is like, I said, what is it like to be in corporate America when you can just get fired all the time? Like, and then you're just left out in the breeze. And when you said, well, you just keep your resume and you just stay on LinkedIn, and you had like this perfect, like articulated answer that was like, I was oblivious to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you don't lose your skill,
right?
I just coached somebody on this yesterday. This is such a great timing. So this person is a director, and they're talking about, like if layoffs come, what if I get laid off and blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's not. And they said to me, I worked so hard for this goal to become a director, and it's like sand in my hand.
Yeah.
It's like your raccoon.
Yeah.
Your raccoon.
Cotton candy in a raccoon's fingers.
Yeah. And I was like, no, it's not. It's written in permanent ink on your resume. Like, it's not like if you get laid off from that job, you just like, it's sand on your resume.
Right.
You can blow it off. Like
Yep.
it's permanent ink. It's written in permanent marker. Like you are a director, regardless of what, on your I used to get paychecks, actual
Right.
paper ones, and there used to be logos on them. That doesn't happen anymore. But
I used to get them way after we had to, just because I loved cashing them. Anyways,
it was kind of,
It's so good.
It was really satisfying. Yep. But, it doesn't matter what, the logo is on your invisible check. Like,
right.
You are that. Like, you've earned that. You are that. So layoffs, like, being let go, I guess that I was not afraid, because I also know that everything that happens to me is for me. And I had to really lean into that, because like my journey from welfare to executive to retired,
Yep.
I promise you, was not a linear.
Right.
There was a lot of backstep. There was a lot of falling forward, failing forward.
Yep.
A lot of times like down, some tears.
Yep.
Maybe a lot of tears. A lot of fear. There was a lot of fear. But, I just did it anyway.
Yeah.
Just did it scared.
I don't know. I just thought that it's just so cool, because like I always thought that entrepreneurs were like, yeah, but we're fluid and we're always doing that. And then you were just like, but we're the same.
We're the same.
And I'm like, damn.
Totally the same.
It was just so cool to see that. And I can imagine that there's like a lot of the reason that you ended up scaling was because you had that inherent like self-confidence in yourself, knowing that you're basically untouchable from that perspective at some point. And you're going to elevate your skills above like trying to hang on to something. Because I've always realized in my life that as soon as I start trying to protect what I have, I start losing.
Well, and you come from a place of insufficiency and
Yes.
lack. Oh,
And
that
people
energy
they
is
can
out there.
feel it.
Yeah, and then you're gonna attract that. Like
Yep.
you're good. You're like you're just bouncing off whatever you put out. I
Yep.
mean, the world is a mirror. Like it's all gonna come back. Whatever energy you just talked about, confidence, and can we talk a little bit about that? Because
Yes.
I think I was just listening to this podcast about confidence, and there's a difference between having the confidence to do something and having self-confidence.
Yes.
Like I am not confident in being an airline mechanic. Like I'm not confident in that skill. I haven't done it before, but I have self-confidence, which means I could learn how to be an airline mechanic. So there's like, sometimes people confuse like doing the thing, like, oh, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not confident. But if you have self-confidence in your ability to figure it out and know that you will get to the answer, even if you find the wrong one a couple times, you will get to the right
Yes.
one. Having that self-confidence is so important. You don't have to have confidence in that ability.
That's so deep. Yeah. So like I listened to, this is going to mirror that, but I listened to the difference of telling your kids that they're smart versus they're good at figuring stuff out.
Yes.
One is saying they're smart, so if they fail, they're not smart enough and
Yep.
there's nothing they can do about it.
Yep.
But if they're good at figuring it out, like the world is their oyster, because a problem is just something to be
Exactly.
solved, and it's normal to not know it.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, that's one wrong way to do it. That's
Wow.
one wrong way.
Yep.
I ask my daughter every day about what mistakes she made. I was like, oh my gosh, tell me about your mistakes today. And I get excited about them because
Oh, that's awesome.
that means she did something, that was outside of her. She had to use her self-confidence to do something that she wasn't technically confident in.
Cool. We deal with this in real estate in the winter and the fall, or at least we do. So we have spring, summer market, where your biggest problem is if I pick up the phone, I've got too much work and I'm not going to be home again. Because you're just like, selling houses is relatively easy. People just want to move, and you just show up and you're like, okay, and you just streamline it, make it easy. The fall and the winter are very different, where all of a sudden nobody wants anything to do with buying and selling houses, and they all have the same excuses over and over and over again. And your self-confidence plummets. And then that self-confidence and like to do that kind of bleeds on itself. So you're saying and doing all of the exact right things. You're saying all the scripts, but it's just falling on dead ears because those undertones, like you don't even believe it. So it's been a really cool, like repeated effort to do that. And I ended up finding myself like doing things that I'm just like enjoying instead of trying to figure out the things that I'm doing, and you kind of replicate it.
Well, and you have to remember, like, our brains are built to give us sentences or thoughts, right? Like
Yep.
I've seen data that's like 12,000 to 60,000, sentences or thoughts a day come into your brain.
Wow.
Which ones are you going to, we purge like 99.9%.
Yes.
Which ones do you want to pluck out and hold on to? Because you're going to have those intrusive thoughts.
Yep.
But you just have to decide, are you going to allow that intrusive thought to come forward and give it merit? Or are you going to be like, no,
Which
that's
one is your
actually,
brain flush?
Yeah.
Cool. That's
And
what makes our brain so
sometimes-
powerful is our ability to flush, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's where that's where your frontal lobe comes in. And you're like, nope, not having that one.
Freaking cool.
And say it out loud because you believe your words out of your mouth more than anything. So if you do have an intrusive thought, especially one that like repeats, say out loud, I do not believe that. I'm not going to think that anymore.
Yeah. When you arrow, your thinking is messed. I always say that your thinking is made of the same things that your dreams are made out of. And you can dream up some crazy ass stuff. So like the idea that your dreams or your thoughts while you're awake are all sane and like sober, like you're nuts. Like it's the same thing. So like say them out loud. My wife did this week. It was the coolest. I came home and she was just cranky and she goes, hold on. I'm crabby about this. I'm not crabby about that. And I'm like, damn, thank you. And so I left because like I would have thought that she was this or that and the other thing. And she aired her thinking of like what was actually happening in the back steps, and like it smoothed our whole evening out. It was amazing.
That's it. That is interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
It's also interesting what you made that mean, but
What do you mean?
I won't turn this into a coaching session with you.
Okay.
You made her mood mean something to you.
Well, no. So she gave me clarity about like where she was frustrated instead of making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do.
Like because if she snaps off at me, I'm like, damn, like she's mad at me. And she's like, no, I'm not. It's this. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you could have thought that in the beginning too. You could have been like, oh, she just snapped off at me. She must be upset about something that, but it's not me.
Yeah, and it's never. Yeah. Well, so, okay, we'll go to that maybe. Yeah, I guess. I think we're already in agreement. All right. So where can people find out about you? Where could they get started?
They can find me at Michelle Christopher Coaching on Instagram, and it's
that's below.
Yep,
Like
it's
in the description.
Michelle with one L. Christopher Coaching. Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Dynamite.
Yeah, those are kind of my two places.
Cool. Check it out. So you check your DMs.
I do all the time.
Okay. Sounds great. Great. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. The more you guys do that, the more fun this is. I'm going to do it anyways because you do things even if they're not like working perfect. So
That's what I heard.
just make it better.
Yes.
All right. See you guys.